This is WEBurlesque.
This is Abby Fantastic.
Hi, this is BB Sanchez.
Hey, it's Paris Stilton.
Hi, I'm Bobby Burlesque.
This is Caddy Wampus, and you're listening to WEBurlesque Season 10.
Yeah, you did perfect. You did perfect. I'm gonna use that whole thing. This is WEBurlesque podcast, and I am your host, Victor Devon. And through the miracle of fiber optics, I get to talk to nightlife individuals in the field of drag, burlesque, and cabaret. And today is no exception. I have a queen, everybody. I have a mixed exotic world. Hello, hello, Honeybee Rose.
Hi.
So,
how's it going, world?
We're trudging, we're trucking, we're doing what we can. Oof. Now you've had a whirlwind 2 years, particularly since winning Miss Exotic World. But let's get something out of the way. You won under a different name.
Oh, I did, and we love her still. So back in 2024, when I won, I was formerly known as Ms B LaRose. And it's really funny because sometimes as I'm even like hosting shows, even my own shows, I'll let that name slip. I mean, like, I'm your host, Ms B LaRose. And yes, you can also call me Honey Bee. But yes, long story short, I used to identify as Ms B LaRose, and we still love her. It's been a fun time getting the opportunity to see myself in a different light and how I want to move forward with my art, with my burlesque, and kind of making a timestamp even for myself in the evolution of. I think it's crazy to think that something as how you identify yourself can stay stagnant when it's such a whirlwind of a world we live in. And so back when I decided to change my name to Honeybee Rose, lots of factors came into consideration. Well, let me back up because I do love Ms B LaRose, and not a lot of people know which and why I decided to use that as a stage name. So from my civil name down to the bones, everybody always called me B. It was just been a motif that has been carried with me since the 4th grade. Everybody would sign off with little bumblebees to address me, or I would sign off like with little bumblebees to address myself. So I've always been known as B. And my grandmother, her civil name is Rustica, and her ethnic background, she's from the Philippines. So here in the States, to make everybody more kind for their own palate of lack thereof spicy language, they call my grandma Rose. And so the Bila is not without her Rose. So without her influence, I would die. So that is the background story, Ms. B LaRose. But when we are talking about technological times and when we are talking about the preservation of history and how I saw myself as my own thespian, as my own fan, and also as my own historian, everybody kept spelling my name wrong. Everybody did. And all the flyers that I've ever had as Ms. B LaRose, it's like 10% of those listings, those postings, has the name jot down correctly. I would get so frustrated even to this day trying to find my own work online, just trying to make a name for myself in terms of having any type of like formal CV or any receipts people can look me up in. And even after I got crowned, I was like, am I still going to have my name misspelled past the prime of me accomplishing something of a milestone? And I wanted to take control of that again. I wanted to take control of my own narrative. So I already had my production company, Honey Hive Productions, since 2021. So I thought it was just a smart gameplay for me to reestablish my name stage persona as Honey B Rose, to link that and also just make it a little bit more of a milestone of a stamping for myself. Um, how I approach myself on stage, I don't take myself as seriously as I did back when I started this. And I feel like Honeybee is just gives so much more air and so much leeway for people to approach me, for me to talk to people. And there's just so much fun puns that come out of it too. I can get into like really fun characters on the microphone also that I don't think I was like allowing myself to tap into for my formal stage name. And it's also kind of fun seeing the timeline of when people know me. A lot of people that still see me, they're like, oh, Ms B or B La, or how's Ms B LaRose doing? And I know just off of those introductions or those meet cutes that I'm like, you've been with me since the beginning. You know what I mean? And it makes me really happy to know that people have been with me for so long. So it's not a loss to having changed my stage name at all, in terms of we never get to see or hear Ms B LaRose again. It's just been nice to hear her name in such light now when I do get to hear it, if that makes any sense. So, like I'm kind of protecting the innocence of what was, and I'm like moving forward with a new timestamp of a marker for what's to come.
Sure. Well, I mean, as you said, it is such a milestone winning something. It is such an interesting thing because you Miss Exotic World, while it has evolved over time to include all genders, and it has extended its life as what it really means to represent the brand and the industry, I feel like burlesque as it stands right now, and I was talking to Nami Flair actually earlier, who's relatively new to the game but is killing it, like is like hit the ground running. And I was like,
doing the right thing. Of them
I said,
doing all the right
I
things.
said, what is it like to be so like to be hitting all of these things, but have been dropped right into whatever bowl of soup burlesque is, which is fraught with arguments and trauma and difficulty and transition of who's in power, who's in play, who gets to say. And it's such an interesting, and she had fabulous insights. I will allow her to speak for herself on her own episode. But the idea of the Burlesque Hall of Fame not having a physical location right now, having this sort of transitionary point when we're getting to the new weekender, which is coming up in a couple of months. Obviously, there's so much in flux in our world, and we thought for just a second, maybe some of us thought that was at least a constant. And to have that not be, it's sort of like, oh God, even we can't have nice things. How do you feel as an ambassador for what Miss Exotic World's legacy is, which is decades old, which is enriched with such fabulousness? Um, how do you contend that with just being B, just being B?
I feel like in these instances, and even taking what's going on kind of in our right now, it's like we kind of just need to take a beat, touch some grass, and take a step back. You know what I mean? So we lost a brick and mortar place, yes. And it feels like in terms of a ladder, we're moving down on a ladder of progress. Sure, that's perspective. But at the same respects too is how I see it now, how I see how I carry myself in the journey is that it's not a ladder, it's a road trip. It's an unknown destination, and sometimes we lose a tire and we have to take a pit stop and patch it back up or recruit some help in order to get back on the road. And this is that for the Burlesque Hall of Fame right now. Like, we didn't lose the vehicle per se. We lost a tire in which we had a motive to get the reason in which why we do what we do out. It doesn't stop with brick and mortar. It actually gave us an opportunity to put into perspective of why does this matter so much? And for some of us to kind of let us be reminded that not to take nice things for granted because we'll lose them. And even though it's a difficult time right now, I think it also gives individuals not to take things for granted, to take a look at the people around them, to make sure to check in and really see what's going on with your own individual ecosystem. So that way we can continue to build off of our own resources and to continue to spread the word of the gospel of what is burlesque. Before the Burlesque Hall of Fame, what did we do? We continued to put ourselves on stage, we protested, and we talked about it. We talked about it amongst ourselves. I feel that, especially in these times where the social stratosphere of the world is on fire, why not take a little bit more time to check on each other and make sure things are patching up?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like as an ambassador, I am very, that's another thing too. Like when you win the crown, no one really tells you become an ambassador. It's kind of like the internet
Mm-hmm.
does too. And I guess that's a whole nother
Mm-hmm.
conversation. But I think that it's fought with peril to name any sort of person an ambassador of burlesque. We are kind of our own ambassadors at this point. And I think everybody needs to start seeing themselves as that way in the work, the spirit, and the progress that is burlesque. So it's like we can't really rely on Beehoff to do that for us.
Certainly.
We have to rely on each other in order to do it. And I think, after it all happened, the power of collaboration started happening again. You know what I mean? Take, for example, the exhibit for, Black History Month that Aquarius Spoon put together. Like, if the Burlesque Hall of Fame hadn't closed, would that exhibit come to be? You know? I mean, eventually, yeah, sure.
But it helped facilitate
I think the power.
the other.
It helps, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I also, it's like a reminder that we can't put so much responsibility on just one institution to do the work for us.
Well, particularly because we are such a diverse bunch of folks. I say on the pod very frequently that we're all like different crayons of neurodivergence in the same box, and that we all come from different backgrounds or we all have different perspectives, particularly when it comes to both art and entertainment. So let's get into some of your formative years. Let's lead up to your crowns. Where did you first realize that being a showgirl looked like a possibility?
Oh, the origin
Uh-huh.
stories of Ms B. So back circa 2013, I was doing all the big girl blueprints that they tell you to do, go to high school, go to college, get your degree. And I was doing so great at it. I was really doing the thing. I got my first big girl job, I was living in Chicago, moved out to Kansas City, Missouri, and stayed there for like well in my 20s. I had my own territory. Oh, by the way, I was in sales and marketing, and so I was supposed to, you know, get the big house, 2-car garage, 2 dogs, a really decent fiance lined up. And I kind of just looked at myself and I was like, is this it? Is this it? And just doing the same routine. And I felt very lackluster and I needed a change. And I didn't know where to start, but back home at my roots in Chicago. So 2013 came, I packed up, found myself another corporate job, but really was just down in the dumps and really not knowing what to do with my life. then a couple of my college girlfriends realized that I moved back to Chicago. They reached out, and goodness, the power of sisterhood really gets you everywhere. We were at this karaoke punk dive bar, and in the basement of was this really shoddy stage and a burlesque show with people that I had not realized that were some of the best in the business, and especially in Chicago. Folks like Lady Jack, who now goes by Lindsay Marks, fucking fabulous entertainer, performer, producer. Jeez Louise was in the show. What a hoot. And there's one particular individual by the name of Angel from Venezuela that really took the cake for me. The amount of joy that radiated from this beautiful human, and all the bachelorettes in the house, and ourselves included, were just going nuts for this beautiful godlike man. And it felt like a beam of light of just his raw energy and joy was just directed at one person. And I was just like following this aura of light that was beaming from him. And I looked at the audience and I was like, no way. And I was like, is that his mom? And she was like the same blueprint face and just smiles ear to ear. And I was like, this is it. I don't know what's happening here or what's going on, but this is the juice and I want it. I want this Kool-Aid. I want this level of joy. I want this level of happiness. If this is the goal to get to where I need to be, if burlesque is the roadmap to me making smiles, like that's what I want to do. And so my inebriated self went up to the host that night, who happened to be the producer. His name was Rob the Pup Racine. And I was faking it till I made it. Ever since then, I like puffed up my chest and I was like, hey, you don't know me, but I'm going to be on your next show. And he's like, excuse me, who are you? And I was like I said, you don't know me. And I think from there, we went chest to chest, chin from chin, him just, calling me on my shit. And so he handed me his business card and was like, you know what? Funny enough, we have auditions in 2 days. This is my email. Why don't you email me a video of yourself and your CV? And I was like, okay, bet. I went home that night obliterated, and woke up the next day, rearranged my entire living room to create some kind of a set. And I had, a chair. And then I put in, I still had gear from like dance camp way back when. And I put my leotard on and put a blazer on. And I did whatever I thought was burlesque. Didn't even have pasties on, mind you. And I had an iPhone 4. And I was like recording this shit on an iPhone 4. And I think it was like to an Usher song or some shit like that. And I'm like strutting my stuff, doing some chair dance moves and all of the knowledge that I've learned in the past 24 hours of burlesque, and I beefed up my CV. So anytime I said that I was in any type of like programming, I was like, oh, I was in the dance part. And I put a couple of months or years on it. So like orchesis from like the 8th grade became like orchesis from like 8th grade through college. You know what I mean? I was just beefing up anything that I could like make sense of what a CV even was for what I was trying to do.
I can't tell you. I don't think there are enough. I don't think there's a lot of burlesque people who have ever put together a CV. So already they were asking more than.
You know what I mean? Like he asked for it. So I was like, I guess this is what you do. I'm like, he's the producer and I'm trying to get an audition. So if he says, give me a CV and a video, I was like, okay, I'm going to give you a CV and a video. So then I emailed it. And mind you, I had this cute little terrier walking in the background of the video. Oh my God. And I don't know. I digress. But he emailed me back again. It was like, hey, be here at this location at this time. Have a USB with your music. And I was like, what is USB? So then I had to figure out how to get my, I was still working on floppy disks, somehow I figured it out. I figured out how to get music onto this
Uh-huh.
USB. I show up to and I was there. Everything is an hour late. I was already pissed. He already came in. He's like, I didn't know you were going to show up. And I was like, well, I've been here for an entire hour. When's this starting? And he like looks at his set list and didn't even put me on it. And then he's just like, looks at me. He's just like, well, how do you feel about going second? And I was like, I think that's great. And then he's like, why? And I'm like, well, I get to watch the first performer go and know how the program works. And being second, I get to watch the rest of the show and have fun. And he's like, okay. And I was like, let's go. So then I have, not knowing who's in the audience, I have like mega burlesque legendary icons judging me at this open show audition. A couple of the names that happened to be there was Lily Rascal, Willie Q, and Ray Gunn. I think Bazooka might have been there. Who knows?
These
But
folks that so many of us are like, oh, please don't make me
yeah,
follow
you know what
them.
I mean? Yeah, right? No, they were at my open audition, and they, believe me, I'll let them speak on their behavior, is all I'm going to say. And I get out there. Oh, right before I get out there, I go into the dressing room, which happens to be like a shitty dive bar bathroom. You know, naturally, I don't think much has changed since then. And then I look around the room, and one of the people that happened to be in the dressing room, I didn't know them at the time, was Gia Lady. And I'm like looking at the, like, everyone is so glammed up, and I'm so intimidated because all I have is like a black blazer and a leotard, and I don't even have shoes. I'm doing this shit barefoot. And I'm looking around, and there's like beautiful boob jewelry on everybody. And I'm like, is that required? Is boob jewelry required? Because I didn't know the name for pasties at the time. And I walked up to Gia because at the time she just seemed like the most accessible. And I was like, hey, the boob jewelry, is is that necessary? Is that required for the job? And she's like, honey, it's the law. And right then and there, Honeybee Rose really should have been my name. But again, I digress. And then so I was like, I gotta put out this fucking fire. And so I walk up to Thomas Edison, who was behind the booth, and I was like, hey, you don't know me, but is there any way I could borrow some electric tape that you might have back there? And he was so nice. He handed me the electric tape, did the classic X's. I went on, did my audition, was like, holy shit, that was the biggest rush in my life. And I love it. But you know what? They can't say that I didn't try. And I'm just going to, I either go on figuring out what burlesque is, or I leave it at here, really proud of myself that I at least tried. It was either be one or the other. And I was looking at Rob. He had this face on him. Like, it was so hard to read. I didn't know if it was like a good face or a bad face. And so a couple of acts in, he like comes up to me and he like looks at me. He's like, can I talk to you? And I was like, sure. And he's like, you don't have it yet. And I was like, I'll take that. I will take that yet. And he was like, he's like, you don't know burlesque, but something about you, the way you move, the way that you dance, not a lot of people can do. You don't know burlesque, but you know the X factor of putting on a performance. And I was like, okay. And he was like, why don't you work behind the scenes at a couple of our shows just for you to actually know the business of what you're getting into and decide from there if you want to do this. And he's just like, and I'm just going to be real with you. It's like, ultimately, it's just going to be up to you. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. I was like, give me all the days, tell me what to do. And so I just started showing up to the shows. I had a lot of hospitality background working in Kansas City. And so they put me on the floor. I was a host, I was a hostess. So I was an usher. I would do the seating arrangements, seat people, greet people, talk to people. They started putting me in merch because they knew I was really good at selling stuff and talking to people. So I was like not only doing ushering, I was selling merch. And then they were like, you're so funny and fun. Like, why don't you start doing kitten work? But it was not just kitten work. It was like kitten clown work.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, put on a character. Rob was the host, and we would do this like banter back and forth. And then Bazooka was like, okay, you're doing great with that. Why don't you start joining us for the ensemble work of doing group routines and, opening up with work and doing that and the other. And I think I had been just doing this show like nonstop for like 6-7 months and not really focusing on my own craft for myself. And at the time, I just didn't think it was necessary because I was just learning so much by watching people like Shea Coulee and watching people like Jeez Louise and Eva LaFiva. It's like, these were the people that were in the show. So I was just having a ball just sponging all the information I could just by watching. And people like Tila and people like Switch. And it was just like there was just so much to learn that I wasn't really that thirsty to become a soloist at this point. But the people that were so encouraging are, I call them my adoptive dads, because I don't want to put that pressure on them. So it was Ray Gunn and Bazooka Joe. They had this beautiful show called The Vertical Sideshow, and it was very long format storytelling of burlesque in theater. And they were very intentional with the music they picked, the plots they created, the scripts they wrote, and the people they invited to perform in this production. And then Bazooka and Ray come up to me. They're like, I think it was like, you got 3 weeks. Here are a pair of fans. This is your song. Figure it out. And I was like, bet. So they forced me to work on my own work. So they gave me a tool. I don't know in this day and age where any one person would just come up to a random new performer and be like, here are $1,000 feather fans. Use them, have as much time as you want with them, figure out your solo routine with them. But they did that. They had enough faith in me to create my own solo work. And then from there, I just kept doing what I love to do, whether it was production work behind the scenes or creating my own solo work to the costuming. Like I was done. I was sold. But like burlesque has me.
It has it stuck. Hey, this is Viktor Devon, and I like socks. I've always been very open about my appreciation for the fabric that goes on my feet, and I want you to enjoy them too. Please go to footclothes.com. Look at the variety of fabulous novelty socks that do not suck, and indulge. You can get 10% off now with the name Viktor Devon as a promo code. That's VIKTORDEVONNE. Put it all together, no spaces, and enjoy.
Tonight on Murder, She Wrote.
Hooray!
Hey.
Yeah.
It's kind of Piper Laurie and Brenda Vaccaro at A Love Child.
Thank goodness.
I want to know
His
her.
nails. Yeah, where's her series? That's what
He's
I want.
fabulous.
The son is Joaquin Phoenix.
I know, isn't that nuts? And he is an ugly little kid. I'm sorry.
We're just like, hey, remember when this guy was in this obscure Broadway show in 1976?
Right? Look at him in those tight pants. Yum.
Well, because there's not
But
a
we
lot
do
really
get-
going on. It's
Yeah.
supposed I mean, unless you're listening to the dialogue, which frankly, audience at home, you can do without us. We're just
Yeah, do
learning
your own
about
work,
some of these
damn it.
backstory. But
Right.
Boswell put her up to it.
Yeah.
And then Trish had to be killed because she realized that Boswell didn't have her interests at heart because Teddy was the inheritor.
Yeah.
Playing her like a fiddle.
Oswell knew it, and Trish just gulped it down like one of those martinis.
And then tossed it onto the law.
And then lost her head. Poor Trish.
Trish loses her head. This is Viktor Devon.
And this is Petra Fried
And this is Tonight.
on Murder, She Wrote.
Do you have that sort of nurture caretaker in you? Not all of us do. Not all of us can.
So my first tagline that Rob came up for me has been the glittering goddess with the heart of gold. And it's a hard, in hindsight, it can be a hard tagline to live up to, but for me, it has not been. And I just try to walk within that truth, if that helps explain
Yeah.
that. I feel like in every scenario that I've ever had to put out a fire, there's always been someone here for me to help do that. And I think that's just part of burlesque for me. So to answer your question, yes, absolutely.
When you were developing your personal style and your interests, I mean, you sort of give a lot of quintessential silhouette when it comes to when people might think of the cage panties or with the glittering and the style, and you have this beautiful lithe body that drapes clothing gorgeously. Um, how much of that came out of nowhere, or did you have something inherent in your head sense of? I mean, I know you didn't know pasties, but did you at least have an interest for the glitter and all that gleams?
Um, when it comes to the formalities of the costume, I honestly was just trying to keep up with I was trying to I'm constantly trying to keep up with the polish and the professionalism of having a put together costume when it comes to costuming. How the look comes together though, it's evolved throughout the years, really. And the stoic, statuesque style that people see in the now, because since having won the crown and now that there's just a little bit more of a broader audience, they're seeing a time of me that's actually kind of new. The silhouettes, the slow burn, this part of me in terms of the work that's seen, I think only recently started just during around the time of 2024, me taking the big stage. I feel like a lot of my style has been one in part moving and listening to my body and what it and she and they can do for the matter at hand. And also from the practice that I've been able to put into this the last 11 years and idolizing the people that inspire me. Some of my movement in the terms of the foundations began with individuals like Peekaboo Point, Egypt Black Nile, and Bella Blue, and Jeez Louise, and Lindsay Marks, and Eva Lafiva, and Tila Von Torl. These were the individuals that I learned from and I took classes with, or at least studied on stage. Anything that made them make me feel really good, I was like, oh, noted. As an audience and as a lover of a fan of burlesque, I'm like just trying to repurpose the moments where I feel most just ecstatic to be in a room full of these performers, and I'm just trying to recreate a little bit of that magic of what makes me feel good and what made me feel good. But as I grew up just in the real world these last 11 years, a lot of what I've been through as an individual has now taken hold into the spelling of my movement, and also listening to my body as I got older as a person. So the lineage of this style of dancing that I'm doing right now is actually pretty new. You should have seen Ms B LaRose back then, though. She could really fucking cut a rug in terms of the classic bumping and the grinding and having like energizing bunny style. It's crazy. But my foundational work right now is that a lot of people don't know, when I took that big stage back in 2024, I almost told myself that I was going to take a really big break because I injured myself really bad. I pulled my right ACL. I think it was March or April, right before the big performance. And I even had to talk to Dahlia and Tila, and I was like, hey, I know I'm also doing this big group with you, but just so you know, I don't know if I can, do it. So if, as we're choreographing, put me in a place where you can just take me out, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it with this injury. And thank God individuals like Dahlia and Tila are around to help me patch up and put a really big Band-Aid. I had to take a couple of one-on-one classes with Tila to really gain my muscles or gain muscle in my feet again, or whatever you want to call it. I had to learn how to walk in heels again. I couldn't do it. So a lot of that stoic movement was actually me getting injured, learning new techniques in how to build strength in my feet, in my ankles, in my legs again, because a lot of the things that I could do, I could no longer do. And then I had to change the choreography of how my act was, because I couldn't do a lot of the things that I used to be able to do with the act. And also, I congratulate anybody that can do burlesque 1000% of the time and make a living out of this, but I can't. And a lot of my draping or stoic work or having the patience not to move really comes from my foundational skills of being a figure model for the School of Art Institute of Chicago. And I do their fashion illustration classes. And I also do their comic book illustration classes. So they're very, very different classes, which I have a lot of fun with. But it's posing and not moving all day, every day. Yeah. Actually, today I just got done with a shift, showered, put some kind of appropriate face on just to be here.
Well, thank you.
Now, no, thank you. I was like, somebody get me out of this grind of having to go downtown, and I just want to be in my house again. So like all of that work also comes with the practice, and the more you do your practice, the more you just feel so secure in your body to not really give a fuck about what it does, because you trust yourself so much because you've been doing this for so long.
Well, would you think yourself as a perfectionist, or a perfectionist up to a point?
No, I'm not a perfectionist at all. At half the time I'm performing, I'm just like, please don't bite it. If I just can't, like, if I can just walk off the stage and not fall, it's a great day. I don't, I think what I find in being in the perfectionist part of the process comes with my costuming. That stuff, like making sure things fit the way that they need to fit in terms for it to work the way that they need to work on stage. Like, I need my costume to work because I'm too worried about myself. And I only want myself. I don't want to work with the costume. So I say, if like in terms of me being a perfectionist, it's with my apparatuses, or it's with the apparatus of how I use my costume. That I would say is like, in my mind, where the attention to detail has to be point on as possible, is the attention and care of building a costume, because I'm going to be wearing and tearing it up. But in terms of what I do on stage, I don't feel the need to be perfect on stage, because my life is not perfect. I am not perfect. To deliver something so perfect on stage just wouldn't feel authentic. I feel like I honestly feel like I think I'm more chaotic than perfect, to be honest. And I think it's through the chaos I connect with people. they're like, oh, this bitch really doesn't give a shit. And I'm like, yeah, I fucking don't. Let's go.
Well, you seem to have the chops to, I don't want to say fake it till you make it because that seems reductive, but to
It's not. I'm still doing it. But go ahead.
but at the but to be confident in bullshitting is such a necessary part of getting work for a lot. Like, I mean, really, I mean, it boils down to you expending on your CV as well as going in there with gusto. I mean, there are people who would take that, who would be very put off by that, but that kind of self-awareness and capability that you can then back it up, that does take a great deal of effort, I would think. Just
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. Alaska is not by any means, no, not whatsoever. I think what helps is that what people don't realize is that confidence is not an inherent thing. It's a muscle that you have to practice. Confidence is the lack of knowing and doing it anyways.
Hmm.
I think for me, it's like when you're in this industry, it's like if you don't try, you're not going to get anywhere. So I didn't have this level of confidence without having messed up a shit ton of times. And it's in those times that you have to make that change, fix it, and reapply yourself. And so what people do end up seeing is my reapplication, my tenacity, my ability to pivot, or my ability to see something that is a mistake on my part, but be proactive enough to still want to deliver something beautiful, something that makes everybody feel really
Hmm.
good. And so I think people mistake um, confidence not being associated with failing.
Hmm.
And I think they work part and parcel. Like people hear that word and they're like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? But failures can come very small and have not adverse effects, but if you can like pinpoint those small measures and just take the opportunity to flip it and make it a good measure, and then you start building on those good measures together, that's confidence. You know, in any point in the game, if you don't work on those good measures, that's going to dwindle. And so does your ability and your approach to have faith in the outcome.
Mhm.
So I think for me, like confidence is faking it till you make
Mhm.
it. Like it is making the decision to do something, anything, anything. And then it's like when you start realizing that you're making good on your decisions, that decision making becomes more easier because you're you're putting in the practice. So when when people decide they want to do this, it's like, well, you know, put in the practice, whatever that means to you, whether it's your costuming that needs work, whether it's how you are staging yourself up on stage, whether it's your communication skills. I've been in this business for like 11 years now, and it drives me wild that people don't put as much effort as they do perfecting what they do on stage to perfecting how they can communicate and really sell themselves. You know, I see when my like emails back in the day, and then anytime I like have a good email come in my inbox, I take note. I'm like, oh, that was like really eloquently like laid out, very organized, and I want to make that improvement for me. So then I do it. I like format how I start putting together words and sentences and how I start talking to people, how I start asking for things in a way that is not going to be such an inconvenience to somebody. you know. And I'm also, a part of me having confidence is also like not taking things to heart, or not, if somebody can't do something for you, not taking things personally.
Right, right.
So
Well, it's tough lessons because I think a lot of us also, because of the nature of burlesque, whether one is a hobbyist versus if one is more or less full time, so much of it is shrouded in misogyny and criticism. And if some of those calls are coming from inside the house in terms of how we relate to our bodies, if we find ourselves capable of handling rejection, things like that. But burlesque as something that's still relatively unmainstream, as Taylor Swift, Dita Von Teese notwithstanding. And even Dita Von Teese is still gets more press as Marilyn's ex-wife than she does really for her stage shows. Um, More of these as I guess as we sort of figure out how to push ourselves and how to promote ourselves, it's difficult because we're not talking heads very frequently. We use our bodies very frequently, and many drag performers will then use the music or the lyrics that they're miming to get their points across. But many of us don't, even if we're if it, even if we have it in our day jobs, we don't have communication for burlesque down yet. We really don't. A lot of us really struggle with that. And it's almost to a point where we're apologizing for it at the same time. And that's rough. It's really rough. And I don't know if that's simply because it's a nude or nude adjacent art form and therefore is viewed with a certain bias by the mainstream because it's also women centric. Any exposure or any confidence that a lot of femme bodies present is often hit with derision by the mainstream because it's a hellscape. And then you add in fat people, you add in queerness, you add in trans identity, you add in people of color, you add in disability, all of these different intersections. And suddenly it's the wokest art form on life, which is my favorite. I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. It is my favorite thing. It is the only thing I know how to do. Um, is to be part of all of it. And what I find really cool is that whenever I've spoken to somebody from Chicago, that there seems to not only be a great deal of community and relationships, but y'all are working. You all really, really work really, really hard. Um,
we do.
can you imagine
We do.
being anywhere else full time as a performer?
Do I imagine? Absolutely, all the time. Is it possible? Not in this day and age for me.
Fair
No.
enough.
But I mean, if you want the real, really truth, but there's, two sides to it. Chicago being the epicenter of burlesque in my life at this right now, I don't see myself doing it anything at the short term going
Mm.
anywhere. We worked really hard in order to create an ecosystem here, especially post pandemic. We had a slew of heavy hitter producers that came out of it because if we weren't going to do it, who else was going to do it? And then, you know, it's been also been such a crazy time, the pandemic, but it also taught us how to turn to each other for help and figure things out and create programmings that are still here.
Mm.
And I think it's just, I think inside we all kind of knew it's like if we are not going to help each other, this isn't going to happen, and so I think everyone now sees kind of like the bigger picture. When one of us in the group has like a big idea, it's like, okay, well, our big ideas have worked well for us in the past, so why don't we all throw ourselves into it and figure it out? And I think that's kind of like the audacity of burlesque, is just having the audacity to talk about your big ideas. And if you think it, you can say it, you can do it. And I think a lot of people get stuck with just thinking and not saying and then not doing.
Doing is scary. Doing
So
is scary.
doing is scary. So when you find a group of individuals who are all kind of talking and thinking the same like things, and you get us all in a room together, it just feels a little less
Mm.
scary.
Tell me a little bit about Honey Hive.
Honey Hive Productions came out of the pandemic in 2021. The first production that I came out of it was Stripped. Um, and with Stripped, it just gave me a chance to really figure out the different parts of the business that I did not know, which big one was definitely hosting. Didn't know how to do it, had to make myself figure out how to do it. And also something else that came out of it was the opportunity, how to pivot the upsell.
Mm.
Um, Again, burlesque, gosh, is not mainstream. So we're all fighting for the same $50, $75, whatever rate you can think of. We're all fighting for the same one. Stripped was no different, but what did come out of it was the opportunity to have a sandbox. Have a sandbox where I had the opportunity to put people on stage that I saw were doing some interesting things with the art form, not getting a lot of stage time, and making great shows with it. And with that was the upsell of coercing our audiences to tip us. Other productions alongside Honey Hive was Shimmy LaRue during the pandemic too. She was the forefront of landing the venue Bordel. And I think with, being on the road, you picks up so much of people's styles, but not only styles of what you want to bring to the table as a entertainer. If you're smart enough to let yourself be open to learning, be smart enough to open yourselves up to how other people put on a show and put on a production, and visiting places like our sister cities like Minneapolis and New Orleans, we found a huge opportunity for tipping. And it's like, I see you, New Orleans. I see you, Minneapolis. Like, okay, bet. And I think, traveling and learning about other people's productions, what works for them, what doesn't, especially being such an underground art form with, trying to get the most out of it with such shitty pay. You're like, I'm going to make every upsell I possibly freaking can. And so Honey Hive Productions came out of a place of necessity. We needed more shows, so and I had nothing else to lose, but only gain. Like, I knew how much money I was getting from the government every week. You know what I mean? So why not try to pitch yourself to venues, make them give you a budget? So they gave me a budget, and I was like, well, just be smart and don't overspend. And so Stripped came along, and it really taught us the power of upselling your audience, whether it's like selling your merch, selling that audience for tips, learning how to communicate on the microphone to coerce people to give you more money outside of just the show and really put into your practice. I hung up Stripped for a little bit. I want to say in like 2023, so I could get back on the road and start touring again, because I missed that part of myself in like we do. And so, and now I'm back in the wave of coming out of a touring season of years and applying myself to being a producer and a teacher again. And being on tour and being close with Minneapolis, I started having a better relationship with my sister wives, Lily Rascal and Muffy Sinclair. We bonded over the years so much closer. Touring with them over into Minneapolis, we created stronger bonds with, Foxy Tan. And so Foxy, having the biggest imagination, was just like, hey, Honeybee, why don't you franchise nudie movies? And I was like, you know what? It feels like a good time to give back to the city that's always done so great for me. And I saw an opportunity where we had an influx of new individuals coming into the industry. And I saw that there was a need to have more space for them to take up space on stage. And I was like, all right, Foxy, yeah, let's bring Nudie Newbies to Chicago. And so Honey Hive Productions, created the franchise Nudie Newbies in Chicago. And it's been really nice not only being in the center of touring and feeling what it feels like, what you need as a performer, a new person coming into a new town, what it means to have hospitality, what it means to have accountability, what it means to be taken care of, so that way your performer can put their best foot forward getting onto the stage. And so my focus for this year is just making sure that people are having a good time and getting paid. And so
that's the goal,
nice,
isn't it? Let's
right?
enjoy
Yeah.
ourselves, and,
So
and if you're going to
as
force
a
us to
performer,
have capitalism, let's
like
enjoy ourselves.
I feel like I just like over the last couple of years, just being on tour, I felt like I was just jumping through so many hoops and ladders, doing the communication gatekeeping game, and trying to like line myself up with shows and shows and shows. And I'm like, why am I trying so hard to line myself up with people when people want to line themselves up with me? And I was like, oh, I need to shift my energy, and I need to listen to what's happening, and I need to see what's going on. And so I was like, if I can't put myself in productions that are not going to take good care of me, then I need to be the person that's putting on productions where I'm taking care of people. So this year I definitely made it a point to be more grounded back in Chicago, making sure that I'm also contributing to the beautiful ecosystem and people that have taken care of me, and just trying to put our best foot forward and looking out for one another and putting these big Chicago programs together. I mean, coming up we have Juneteenth by Bodysuit, and that has been also a lovely project Honey Hive Productions has been a part of over the last handful of years. We've been in charge of the volunteers programming for that production, and gathering up the troops of Chicago and make sure their shows are running. Honey Hives is also putting together a caravan of characters for Minneapolis's Tassels Off that's happening in July, at the end of July. And it's a great weekend of burlesque summer camp where people just show up at a barn that get glammed up and kumbaya and hang out and do crafting, do summer activities, and also get to like put on a stage show in a barn, and it's a lot of fun. And so I think with Honey Hive Productions coming back into play, the focus has been very much, let's be in situations where we're doing good work, we're putting on a good show, but we're also having fun and getting paid and taken care of. And that's kind of like the vibe that I'm going for the rest of 2026.
Are you still a fan?
Truly.
Are you still a fan?
That's why I'm producing. Of course I'm still, you know what I mean? I think that's what I missed. I missed curating the shows that I wanted to see and have fun with. I will forever, first and foremost, always be a fan. If you are not first and foremost always a fan, like, what are you doing? How do you even do it? You know what I mean? I'm like, every chance I get, I'll be there.
Watching.
I'm always like, honestly, I would say 90% of the time people invite me to their show. Like, I'll go if I have the availability. And if I'm at the show, you're gonna know it. I'm gonna be the loudest one.
Hey, this is Victor Devon, and I would really like to thank the Patreon people. So thank you, Patreon people. You make my dreams come true. Stormageddon, Bo, Alex, Joyce, Sebastian, Oliver, Curly Bright, Shani, Tiffany, Faye, Roxy, Lucy Gander, Luna, Charlotte, Dottie, Clara, and to Courtney. Goodness gracious. Thank you so much. I don't know, frankly, what else to do with the Patreon. So if you tell me things that you would like to see on it, whether it's just me talking, if it's some exclusives, if it's chatter of some variety, I would be absolutely delighted to content with that. It just needs to be digested. So you can find me at WEBurlesque@gmail.com, and you can let me know, or you can comment on the Patreon itself. Y'all are great, and I love you. And thanks for spending money on me.
Hello, kitty cats, and welcome to Tales and Tassels, the show where you pounce into the lives of burlesque and nightlife performers, their craft, their cats, and how the two worlds intertwine. I'm your host, Gemma Smith. By day, I'm a manager at a kitten nursery, and by night, I host the Cat Beret, New York City's cat-themed variety show. This podcast is for cat-loving creatives. Whether you're twirling your tassels on stage, chasing your next big idea, or just trying to keep your cat off your keyboard. Season 1 is streaming now, with interviews, solo episodes, and bonus chats with feline experts. And Season 2 will be back this October with even more. I'm truly passionate about growing a community of curious, creative, and cat-loving humans. New episodes drop every other Thursday. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram at Tales and Tassels Pod, and send in your stories or questions to talesandtasselspod@gmail.com. You might just hear them in a future episode. Thanks for listening. I'm so glad you're here. Take care, and until next time, kitty cats.
Since you're now focusing most of your time in Chicago, where are some of your fondest memories internationally that you may have gone to, or even just across this nation, that have really spoken to you as fabulous hubs of places to work?
One RIP now, but one that really just stood out for me was Poland, Warsaw, Poland. When I was on tour, I think back on 2024, they had this venue called Madame Q. It was produced by Madame Medusa, and it was this burlesque collective. I can't even explain it, but essentially, two broads put all of their money together to buy a warehouse basement venue and turn it into a speakeasy made by and for their burlesque community. And the speakeasy was called Betty. Oh, gosh. But I have to say, though, in terms of like the tenacity it takes to put your savings together and create a venue from like the ground up, put in a stage, put in a wet bar, put in this beautiful drink programming, and then create such a queer coded space where the audience members just feel like home, was, especially outside of your own home in your own country, was out of this world. And I live in a neighborhood that is 50% Polish and 50% Hispanics, and we are all coexist together such in a beautiful way, and I love my neighborhood. And then traveling to a place like Warsaw, Poland, I was like, holy cow, this is literally Chicago's sister city.
Mm.
Like, I have a huge population of immigrants that come from this country. And when I talk about Chicago pride and I talk about Chicago hospitality, I saw a lot of what makes us tick there. It was like a home away from home. They take taking care of people really into consideration, and I was blown away by the culture, by the people, and by that city. So I don't know, but sad to say, this last year the venue closed. So I know. So I don't know what's going on with them now.
Uh, the impermanence of theater is such a mixed
I
blessing.
know it is.
I don't know. I get so cranky about things going away, and if I could get like that cybernetic implant where I could just relive things over and over again, that would be what I would go to.
I know 1000%. But I also say on that vein, another place that kind of did blow me away being on tour was Misty Lotus's production. Oh my gosh. Another fantastic producer over in
Oh.
Switzerland. Switzerland kind of in that regard. I don't know if it was so much Switzerland or more so Misty. But their production was just above and beyond. Like, I think when people forget, no matter the stage of how big it is, or how small, or how big the audience is, or how small the audiences are, I think sometimes we forget how DIY this is. I think, I don't know if other people, when they see a show, they're like, oh my gosh, their budget must be like so big or whatever, what have you. And it's like half the time, like people don't even have a budget, especially here in the US. What I am like really floored, and it, again, just like macro level problems of, living in the US, is the amount of attention and the amount of support other countries get for burlesque. Like the amount of grants that are granted to individuals for the art of burlesque outside the US is insane. Like I feel like other countries have gotten grant writing down to a T, where they're really taking advantage of the arts programming that their country is able to provide for them. I think there is an untapped opportunity for grant writing here in the US in general, for more of us individuals to really build on our skill sets. I think we're missing something that other people are doing when it comes to grant writing. But that's just me.
No, you're not wrong. I think that burlesque as an art form is tremendously underfunded when it comes to and I feel like we still struggle with the invitation to the outside world of allowing burlesque to be received by a maximum audience. I think there's a lot of people out there who would really live for this if they knew more about it, if they had more access to it, if they were invited more into it. Because I think that burlesque is one of the most gratifying and motivational accessible arts, because you watch there and if you see someone that looks like you, or you see something that you've never seen before, or if you see something that's aspirational or that comments on the state of the world in a way that's still funny or glamorous or heartbreaking even, but packaged in a way, um I think that's one of the things I would love to be a part
So,
of more of, but I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know. I get stuck. I get stuck on my
I know. Like we have to have like, I don't know. I feel like we need more access to individuals to teach people grant writing. And I don't know what that looks like,
either audience at home.
but
If that sounds like you let me know. You let me know.
let us know. For grant writer, don't
Yeah,
gatekeep.
hit the
Teach us.
DMs. Hit the DMs. Um, Anyway, Rose, I
But
find you a delight, and I appreciate you for your time, sitting and chatting with me today. Before I let you go, I have a few
yes,
more things that as someone who hit what for many people is the height of burlesque accolade, which is the crown and sash and trophy that is Miss Exotic World. Your influence is so strongly felt regionally, and I'm wondering if you have any thoughts to anybody who might not have what they feel is the community backing, or if they feel that the community is very fractured, or they don't know what to look for. Um, do you have any thought on a future nudie newbie individual who might say, where do I go? Where do I start? Do I just go to up to the guy and give him a CV and lie?
I would say go up to the person and ask how, or turn to a person that's already done it
Mm,
and ask. I think when we don't have what we want in the region of where we are, um, this is kind of, the turmoil of burlesque right now. It's scarcity, but it's always going to feel scarce. I feel like people expect burlesque to change in order for them to change with it. And it's not going to unless they do what they want to see happen. So it's like if you see, like, ask yourselves why you want to do this. And so if you see, for me, when I have a new goal in mind, it's because I am inspired from what I see. I see a stage, I want to be on that stage. What do I have to do? Talk to the people who are around that stage. Look outside your region for the things that you want for yourself and start doing the work in terms of asking how. That's what I would say. So if there is a stage in mind that you have a goal in wanting to perform on, start researching that stage. What kind of audience is that stage serving? Is that your audience, first and foremost, that you want to be, dancing for, dancing with? Does that stage have people working behind the scenes of that producer? Who's the producer? Find out who the producer is. You know, find out who's danced on that stage. Do a little digging. A lot of the times when people are like, I want to be on that stage, I'm like, why? What about that stage? Talk to the people that danced on that stage and ask them how their experience was. And then from there, pivot. And if it's something that you still want to pursue, and if you do some digging, ask the questions. Who's the email? Where can I send one? You have nothing to lose. You weren't going to talk to them before. So if you do decide to like send your email, see what happens. See what happens. So I would say, why are you doing this? Why do you want to perform on that particular stage? And please do your homework asking other people who have performed on that stage if it was a good experience for them, for you to continue to decide if that's the space you want to move through. If the space that you can't move through is nearby, you got to fig and dig. You got to either figure out where you want to put yourself in what spaces, or you got to dig your own space and put the people that you want in it. That's how I got about
sure.
that.
Well, as someone who is established and also has their own show, you yourself have to do your own research when you find out if you want to who you want to work with and who you're going to. Um, so the grind is still there. You're still your own
Oh,
boss. You're still your own everybody.
hold on. I'm gonna plug my phone in because I just realized I'm at
Oh,
1%.
I'm gonna let you go in just a second.
Okay, let me plug it in. Plug it in. Sorry. Oh gosh. You can delete this
I
part.
can
Okay,
if
I'm
I
here.
choose to.
Well, it's still not charging and I don't know why. You might
All
lose me.
right. Well, before I let you go, I thank you for your time. Can you tell the folks at home the ways they can keep in touch with you and your goings on?
Oh yes. You can find me at ohoneybeerose at Gmail. Um, all of my links are there, but if you do want to communicate with me, please use my email. You can find it on my Instagram page, Oh Honeybee Rose. But if you want to communicate with me, email is king. I don't do that Instagram messaging. I'm so sorry. It's so hard. It's so hard. Sometimes I do my best to manage it. I really, really do. But if you want to talk to your girl, email is is the best.
Excellent.
The best. Oh, and if we're like cutting and pasting stuff, there's like remember when you're like, hey, when you're traveling in the
Yeah.
world, you're like Uberlesque. Okay. So another group of folks that really like tickled my funny bone and like served my soul, those Australia folks. You gotta watch out for them. They are so fantastic. I had a really great time just shooting the show with them, and the amount of talent I see on stage coming out of Australia is just kind of like mind blowing. Mind blowing. And also, when you want to talk about surviving in this industry, if you look at the performers there, their portfolio doesn't stop at just burlesque. They're doing so much. They're doing the sideshow, they're doing the burlesque, they're doing the fire eating, they're
They're up
doing
in
it
the air,
all.
all kinds of stuff.
Sorry. Yeah, they're up in the air, they're doing it all. So I think and but also it's just like their style of doing it is just like so unmatched when it comes to like the tenacity of like camp and you know the camp is like in the funny bone and all of it. I can't. Okay,
No,
sorry,
it's
I
all good. I
digress.
appreciate it.
It's just like what came back to my head, and I was like, "Don't forget to talk about your Australian friends."
Well, I know. I mean, it's a little up in the air about, speaking of up in the air, it's a little travel right now is a little scary for a lot of folks. And I know that even last year, Betty Bombshell had to send regrets not being able to come in from Australia, as I recall, for the weekender.
Oh,
But when
oh,
things get a little more secure, whatever that ends up being, I encourage folks to go outside their backyard and find things. Um, May all the things be great for you in the coming months and the rest of the year. May you continue to thrive and teach the children as they are, in fact, our future. And I really appreciate.
I mean,
Say again.
I'm like, who else is gonna have us? Yeah, like that's another thing too. I was like, don't mistreat the new kids because at the end of the day, you're talking to your future
I
boss. I'm just
know.
saying.
This is the thing. This is the thing. Um, yeah. Shape,
I
let
know
them
we could
go.
talk.
Let them live. But you know what? Give them good foundations too. Give them good ideas.
No,
Yeah.
no, we're doing our best.
Yeah.
I think that's part and parcel why we want to do nudie newbies so bad. I was like, we got to teach these children
How to behave.
how to be no correct,
Like most of
how
us,
to behave in sun and email.
most of our elders, they don't know how to behave quite either. WeBurlesque the podcast, created, developed, and edited by Viktor Devon. Podcast artwork by Logan Laveau. WeBurlesque the podcast cover art photography by Atticus Stevenson. Theme song, On a 45 by This Way to the Egress, used with permission. All incidental music via Pixabay under the expectation of fair use. Please visit WeBurlesquePodcast.com for notes on this and every other episode. Follow WeBurlesque and Viktor Devon on just about every platform, and support the podcast via patreon.com/WeBurlesque. Don't got the cash? Please follow, subscribe, and give 5 stars on every platform you can get your hands on. It really does help. All original material is owned by Viktor Devon and White Elephant Burlesque Corporation. All other materials property of their respective copyright. No infringement, while likely, is intended. This episode and all episodes thereafter are in memory of Lucky Charming. Miss you, friend. And that's it.
Woohoo!